Jalil, do you hear that?
Oh, I know you about to say something wild right now. What you talking about?
No, I was just curious if you heard how loud the silence is. Because as you've said oftentimes when I've asked you what needs to happen or what can fix this or how do you stay in the solution and not the problem, and you always say winning. And I
Mm-hmm.
just don't hear too many people after a nice split against two very good teams that will be in the World Cup next summer in South Korea and Japan. So that's all I'm going to say. You can play the intro.
And this is new ground.
I think when you when you really get into it, right? It's really about how people feel in the moment. And it's just a great reminder that we should always let things play out in a way that allows us to have a much more informed opinion. And I think in the middle of anything, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to really judge, right? And I'm not trying to just package this up as in all's well that ends well. However, nothing nothing fixes whatever people are feeling like wins. And I just think it's very interesting that the retraction is always in 6 font and the headlines in 78 font and bold. And I think a lot of the feelings that were expressed after the South Korea match, a lot of people found a way to justify that without giving sort of respect to the result, which is they beat a good team on a good night for them. So as we put a bow on the September camp and the air feels like fall now, how do you put together the thoughts around these two games as now we are one step closer to what will happen, whether you want it to go well so you can say I told you so, or go bad and say, see, I told you so, because it seems like both sides of that coin are at play right now.
Well, you're right about a few things. The weather is changing. I'm chilling in the crib right now and I got my hoodie on. So I like the fall.
Yes.
It's not only because it means that the holidays are around the corner. It's not only the time where it seems like the cooking around the house just gets better and better. I don't even know if it's everybody who is in front of a stove, whether it's your uncle,
Hmm.
whether it's your auntie, whether it's your wife, your mom's, your pops, yourself. It don't matter who, but it just seems like the cooking gets a little bit better. Everybody's practicing for that Thanksgiving meal or that Christmas meal. And it's not only because fall is when my birthday is, but it's when footy that I have experienced firsthand becomes more and more important.
Yes.
And in talking about some of the most important football that American fans have been waiting for a really long time, that's football inside of a year of the World Cup. And for me, I think all of the criticism that I heard, at least after the South Korea match, is very fair and justified. I don't like how when you lose unequivocally,
Hmm.
gi- give respect.
Right.
South Korea was phenomenal.
Yes.
Speak about it in a way that shows realism while motivating. And
Right.
I didn't like a lot of people. I didn't like how Pochettino handled that situation. Um, is he perfect? Is he going to get everything right? Absolutely not. You know me, I'm more in
Hmm.
grace and in empathy than anything else. But at the same time, too, there there is a lot of very justifiable realism in terms of why people
Yes.
were upset
Yes.
after that match and
Yes.
why people are scared. But
Mm.
then you contrast that with what you're talking about, shading it with, hey, let's see how everything plays out. And you know, the second fixture against Japan was better for sure. It definitely was better. They deserved to win. They took care of the more important moments of the match. And what I mean by that is earning a right to compete, coming up with big moments.
Mhm.
Sandejas' goal is fire. Max
Yep.
Arson balled out in terms of putting in an amazing cross, but
Yes.
crosses like that typically don't find the back of the net because the finish is 10
Yes.
times better than the
Yes.
amazing cross,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, again, it's similar. I feel similarly to
Mhm.
how I felt leading into and during Gold Cup.
Mm.
Still optimistic,
Yes.
but we need the guys that we all expect to be the quote unquote A team to be there. And
Mhm.
yeah, preaching patience is not for me, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with the messaging part of it. I think a couple takeaways for me. One, um, kudos, finger snaps, golf claps to the backroom staff, everyone involved in US soccer, the players, because when you work inside a team, and look, I think I got like close to 70 caps on staff with the national team, right? Your KPIs, your metrics for things are so deeper, so much deeper than the result. Hey, are my guys healthy? You know, did we navigate the 2 matches? Are guys going back to their clubs fit? Are they ready to jump into the weekend fixtures? What's the travel? And I think from that point, and again, no one thinks about these things, but these things are important and they matter. A plus, they did a good job. You know, you could tell there was, hey, I'm going to play you for 2/3. You're going to get 60. You're going to get 30. You're going to get 15. You'll start. And look, at the end of the day, what we've learned something about this team this year, right? We've learned that Chris Richards, Max Arfson, and Alex Freeman and Tim Ream is a pretty good group of players for us right now. So we've learned that. We didn't know that in January. Okay. Now, does it mean that we're going to be ready for Mbappe and France and Spain? Like, no one's saying all that, but we're learning. And I think those are real positives. And this team continues to grow. And look, people are going to be critical. And the real issue is that there are people deep inside US soccer, people who have the respect for anyone who's been capped in the last 2 decades. Some OGs, some unks, some gray hairs that are still there, and they know who I'm talking about. And so do these players. The criticism is valid. No one's disputing that. It just feels so personal. I don't know why, but that is something that people off the record will tell you inside the federation, that the criticism comes with it. They're not expecting not to be criticized when you don't get results. But no one understands, like, why does it feel so personal? Because it doesn't need to be that way. Because when I hear people push back on the criticism with personal attacks and laments, the people are just fighting fire with fire. People are just responding and reciprocating to what they feel. Oh, you're coming after me and my people and what I do. Well, guess what? Well, you've never done this. And they start laying out the receipts. So I just think at this point, it just behooves everyone to, again, take a deep breath and think of it one of two ways, Jalil. Either one, this is a business for the next 260 days, the World Cup business that we should all be a part of and support, because high tide floats all boats and we can all eat. It's an industry like tech, like Silicon Valley, like the Rust Belt back in the day. Like, this is real talk. This is billions of dollars. So people that are being negative are actually hurting the business, and they can't tell me otherwise. Hey, like Dion says, Jalil, I ain't hard to find. I'll sit down and talk to anyone. Real talk.
Yeah.
So, like, no, because I just think sometimes you try to explain things, and it's more calculus than Uno. And I'm not saying Uno isn't fun. It's not the bomb. I definitely want to do Uno at my family reunions. I don't want to do calculus, but this is real talk. Either talk about it like what it is, or just don't. And my whole thing is, like, just say what you have to say, but don't forget who you are. And I know all these people to be great men and to be people who aspire to be great fathers, and are good teammates and sons and husbands and partners. And to me, you can't separate the two things, because Soccer is not what we do, it's who we are. And that's just the real
Mhm.
talk of this. So I'm happy for that group. Again, the split, if you're going to lose a game, as you know, Jalil, it's always better to lose the first game of the back end because everyone can go to the airport, everyone can just dap each other up in the locker room and feel good about it. Speaking of one of the things that we learned, and we're excited that Alex Friedman joins us from camp as he shows up on new ground in a way I think people haven't heard him before, Jalil, and we're excited about that conversation. But for me, I think he has really done everything you can to lock up a unique double as both the MLS Young Player of the Year and the U.S. Soccer Young Player of the Year, because those three those sort of those 2.5 halves that he played were outstanding. And he does the simple actions very well, consistently, right? He can pass on the ground, he can pass under pressure. But man, when you think about someone who can unlock something in terms of just his athleticism, he's that guy. And
Yeah.
you said something about it clicked to me seeing Arson and Zendaya's link up on that goal.
Mhm.
This roster, the success of this team, in my opinion, will be about making plays. It will be about making plays. Yes, you can always say that, but I think people that are expecting this sort of perfectly quilted, stitched together match day performance every time, I don't think that's it. That's not what I see when I look at these players digging deeper, not in a 2D way like most people, but in a 3D way like we live.
Yeah,
And
but
and
on
I
the
and
real,
I'm looking
that's
for
not.
playmakers, and I think Pochettino's realizing that. Like, that's why I think that someone like a Jack McGlynn has a chance to be on this roster because he's going to make a play. Zendejas is going to make a play. Arson's going to make a play. Freeman's going to make a play. We need guys to make plays. That's why I think Wes McKinney is still very much in the frame, because you're not going to be able, depending on who we play in these 3 group games, to figure out a way to just boss teams around. But
For
can we be
sure.
good enough to have enough playmakers? Can CP just make a play on the day? That's what I think this roster is about, not about this sort of elevated, modern, sort of AI version of soccer where it all looks pretty all the time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, look, I 100% agree, but that ain't nothing really too crazy if you really think about it, because what the American public has been wanting from the US men's national team is a bunch of ballers that make plays. Under Greg Berhalter, what it was more of an intricate system
Mm-hmm.
than guys that were really fortifying themselves within the group through their sheer grittiness. And that is what a lot of people were frustrated about in terms of what they felt was lost. And I'm not here coming for Berhalter, because for me, I liked his body of work.
Mm-hmm. You
I
too.
think he was hyper criticized in a way that Bruce wasn't and Bob wasn't.
Correct.
And he did good work, man. But now what is very, very much at the forefront of American fans is that they want this team to be scruffy. They want them to be scrappy. They want them to be able to, yeah, be willing to step to cats, get in fights, not
It
get
feels so
red cards, and
nostalgic
then
though.
dunk on somebody.
It feels so nostalgic though, Jalil. Like, I don't know, it feels like flip phone culture to me, and
What
brown
do you mean?
socks. Like, dude, that's that team, like those teams, the gritty teams, the hardworking teams, okay. Like, you
Mhm.
can't be about what was if you're thinking, or you can't be about what is if you keep thinking about what was.
I
And,
agree. I
and I
agree
just,
with
it's
you.
like, I'm tired of that narrative of, oh, well, we weren't good, but we were scrappy in a team. It's so disrespectful to these players.
Are
Chris
you talking?
Richards,
Hold on.
like,
Are you talking about the players of now or the players of
well,
before
you're
that
speaking to the
had
sentiment. I
that
thought you were
everybody
speaking to the
felt had the
sentiment. Yeah. No,
that everyone had the grittiness?
I thought you were talking about the sentiment, that what people want to see from this team. And I'm saying that that is a days begone, flip phone, old school, you know, the 90s call, they want their jeans back. Like, that team is that those times are over. And I just think you just can't continue to think about what it used to be because it felt good, as opposed to putting everything into now to make it feel better than what it was. And that's where I think people are just sort of stuck. It's like, I get it. We had a bunch of dudes that could run and chase and do all that stuff. But like the idea that like the engine on some of these players isn't the equivalent of a Frankie Hayduck, for example. I'm not name checking him, but like those dudes cover the same distance. They work just as hard. It just looks different. And what I would be saying in my roster, if I was Pochettino and them, is like, hey, who can make plays? And then I'd be telling Tim Weah, hey, I need a couple plays from you today.
I'm sure that is.
I'm sure they're telling him that. I'm sure they're telling him that.
That's what every coach. That's what every
I
coach.
don't know. I don't know too many coaches who, I mean, in my opinion, like from the coaches I were around, the first coach, and for a long time, the only coach who used to talk that way was Sig. Sig used to say, dare to be brilliant. Like, go make a play. I don't care if you gave the ball away for the last 20 minutes. He'd be mad. But if you can make a play, he believed in you. And that's how I felt. Like, even as a staff and working with Sig, is like, if you could make a play for him as a staff member, he was going to show you love and respect that you embodied. I don't know. I don't hear that much because they don't teach that, Jalil, at the coaching courses.
Yeah, but nah. What in my experience, all coaches are saying that go out and make a play.
Okay.
To your point about Zig, he embodied that in terms of how his clubs played for sure.
Yep.
Like he was very, very good at getting a bunch of guys that were gamers. Essentially, he would play him even out of position because he knew, like, okay, if you have the gumption, the bravery, the skill, the cohesion with your teammates to be able to make plays in crucial moments, it almost doesn't really matter if you're a natural left back or not. I could put you there and you're going to figure it out. But at the end of the day, where I see the national team right now, what I do agree with you on is the fact that, like, okay, there's two sides of it. Historically, if you're saying like, hey, the U.S. men's national team was only a bunch of guys that were just scrappy and would only make plays, that discredits the fact that we've had ballers, we've had technical players. We've had Tab Ramos, we've had Peter Vermes, we've had Eric Winalda.
Right.
We've had Frankie Haydick, to your point.
Paul Caligiuri. Yeah, we've had dudes.
We've had Wolf. We have had so many players that have technical ability. Clint Dempsey. But where people, Clint Mathis, don't like, we can just keep name dropping for forever and a day. But where people have been rightfully let down is the fact that over the course of the last two cycles, if you will, it's not that the grittiness is never there. People don't know if it's going to be there every game. And I think that this window shows some of that. You feel like the game against Japan, that's gritty, even though there's swag to it. There's a lot of people who feel, and I think rightfully so, that there wasn't that quite fight against South Korea. And that is a very legitimate place to hold one's feelings. Now, if we're going to talk about feelings only, that ain't going to cut it. What we're looking at is what is the team actually doing from a results standpoint going into the World Cup, where people are like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going. If it's in my state, if it's not in my state, I'm going to be there, X, Y, and Z. And I believe in this team. And the jury is still out. But we ain't the jury. We're new ground, and we stand behind the national team.
Take a look, I'm shining. Moonwalk, keep both feet gliding. I'm up now, great timing. When I was down, was you riding for me? When I was down, was you riding for me? Was you riding for me?